In this short video, we're going to be looking at AutoCAD Raster Design. Now, Raster Design comes in both the AutoCAD Including Specialized Toolsets product, and therefore also in the AEC collection from Autodesk. That's the Architectural, Engineering and Construction collection. Raster Design sits inside of AutoCAD and offers you several additional tools to be able to take perhaps historical or legacy data that you might have a scan of or an image of and convert that into vectorized AutoCAD geometry. Clearly, the quality of the outputs will be dependent on the quality of the image going in, but the good news is AutoCAD includes a load of tools in Raster Design to touch up and clean up the images as you see fit. Now, first and foremost, I'm just going to point you towards actually the AutoCAD Raster Design help files, because if you're new to this, as I say, there's so many different tools. There's almost too many to cover off in this single video. But what you'll find under the AutoCAD Raster Design help is actually a load of how-to and step-by-step guides. So if we look through the different help files, for example, you will find a load of examples on how to despeckle an image, how to use cropping, how to start converting things into vectors. And there's a load of exercises here. Most importantly, you can download a load of sample data, and that sample data contains a load of different quality of images, and those images will be good examples of which to use the cleanup and vectorization tools. So with that in mind, I'm just going to start a new AutoCAD file today, and I'm going to choose to insert a raster image. We'll do a few little bits of cleanup just to take you through some of the tools, and then we'll convert a portion of that image to some primitives. So first and foremost, once we're into AutoCAD, we go to the Raster Design tab, and then we go and hit Insert. That'll ask us to find and choose an image, of which I've got several examples in here, from mechanical to architectural to civils and maps. I'm going to pick an old school architectural floor plan here, which has been scanned in. So I'm going to say bring it in as architectural, and I want to use my insertion wizard as I open that model up. And essentially what this will do is it will allow me to choose how that image is brought in. So I'm just going to do a zoom extents in the background, and we can see our image file has been brought into AutoCAD. It's identified that it wants to work in inches. I can configure that as we go through, and I can choose whether to use my default values or look at the image file and do a best guess scenario on that. I'm just going to click next to begin with. I want it to be placed at 0, 0. I'm pretty happy with a rotation of 0 and a scale of 1 for the purpose of this. But then I can come in and change this to come in at millimeters, or come in at inches, or whatever you see fit. I'm going to pick it as millimeters, hit apply, and then just go through as next and finish this up. And what I end up with is my my image here as a raster image inside of AutoCAD. Now, first things first, I want to get this sized so it's about right. And let's imagine, for the purpose of this example, that this wall here is, I don't know, approximately 10 or 12 meters long, something like that. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of this. So I'm just going to eyeball a line, and I'm going to put the line up here so it's out of the way. So I'm going to draw a 12-meter long line, like so. You can see how much bigger that is than my image. And then I'm going to use some of the tools in Raster to match the size of this wall to this line. So from my Raster tools, I'm going to firstly talk through some of these. We're not going to use all of them, but whatever we do in Raster Design, it will create like a saved version of this raster image, and we can save this as we go through, so we don't have to go through all the touch-up and clean-up options time and time again. We've got the ability to work with several images at the same time and control which we can see, which we can't, and basically, control, almost like layering, exactly what we're doing at any point in time. Now, the first tool we're going to use is Match. I'm going to select Match. I'm going to come and pick the lower left-hand corner of my building, roughly, from my raster image, and I'm going to say that correlates to this corner of my line just here. Likewise, I'm going to select the opposite corner of my building just there. And again, I'm going to go and select the far right-hand side of my 12-meter long line. And what that will do is it will go and match the size of my image to match the size of my drawing, which is great. Obviously, my drawing's blank at the moment, but should I be superimposing this, for example, over the top of something, we can obviously match it. We've also got rotation tools on there as well to be able to rotate this around should we really need to. The rubber sheet tool is particularly useful for that because it allows us to warp and distort our image to suit. So if this is a scan that's come in maybe a little bit skew-if, we can select different points on that image and align them to multiple points across our drawing, and therefore warp and distort the image so that the orientation and whatnot matches what we need inside of our drawing. We're not going to use any of the other correlate tools for this. We're going to jump straight onto my editing tools, and we're going to start by touching up the model. Touching up the image, gives us a touch-up palette, which basically has some drawing tools. We've got a square brush, a round brush, or a diagonal brush. I'm going to use a square brush for the purpose of this. I can change between drawing black or drawing white. I'm going to choose to draw black because that's the color of my background here. And I can come in and basically choose to get rid of any parts of the drawing just by using a touch-up pen that I don't want to keep. And you can see it's not too dissimilar from drawing directly inside of Microsoft Paint or Photoshop or something like that. It's very fast and easy. But to go through and do that for a whole drawing would be quite difficult. That said, should you want to start getting rid of tags or text that you really don't want, we could do so. I'm going to go ahead and press the tick to finish that off and actually show you that we can do that a lot quicker. For things like speckles, I can just use this cleanup tool. We can deskew, we can change the bias, invert the colors, and despeckle this image. If I just draw a simple window around my image and then pick a speckle to give me a template size to work on, AutoCAD Raster recognizes that size. You can see it's highlighted a load of speckles in red, and then I just go ahead and press return. I can run that several times if I want to. Again, I can run that in a specific portion of the image. If we've got an image that's got some smaller speckle sizes, we can come in and basically rerun this as many times as we need to clean up this image. And again, already we've got something that's a lot nicer and a lot cleaner here. Usually I'd recommend to run the despeckle first and then clean up anything individual that you've got left at the end of it. So we can clean up our image to make it nice and neat. Basically, what we're looking for is nicely defined, clean lines. If you've got something that's, not so well scanned in and the lines are not clear, or maybe you've got a lot of overlapping bits and pieces, the vectorization tools will have a very difficult job of figuring out exactly what's going on. So, we just need to make sure that we have a nice quality image. And because of that, we've got a load more editing tools that we can use. So we can get rid of individual lines, arcs, circles, and squares. We can crop regions of our model should we want to. And we've also got some processing tools where we can work on this particular image and make sure that the brightness or the contrast is set as we need to. Now, this image has been brought in as what we call a bit and all image. So it's black and white. AutoCAD will recognize these bits of geometry really nicely. But if you had an atypical JPEG or something like that, then you'd use the process image tool and the histogram tools to be able to go in and change the brightness and the contrast to get those lines really popping. And then we'd be able to convert it to a bit and all image with, for example, change color depth or change density so that we can essentially have black or white or black, which allows AutoCAD to really accurately pick up the geometry. So we go through the process of editing. And again, there's a load of other options you've got here. So if you've actually got several different scans, we can merge all those images together. We can merge vectors together and spend a lot more time cleaning up this particular drawing. Again, this is just a short example today just to get you started, but it gives you an appreciation and an idea and an understanding of actually what you're going to be doing. So then what we can do is once we've got something that's nice and clean, we have some vectorization tools. Now, I'm not going to go through any of the individual REM processes to create regions or create primitives for this, I'm going to jump straight onto the vectorization tools. But again, check out the tutorials, because all of these have their own place and their own example and their own scenario where you would want to or need to use them. So what we're going to do under vectorize is, you notice we've got several options. We've got options for followers, which will look for a continuous line, for example, a polyline, straight lines, or a contour, curved lines. We can also do 3D if this is a 3D view. We've got primitives such as lines, arcs, circles, squares, and rectangles. And we've also got text and OCR scanners. Text will take a single piece of text. OCR will go and scan an area for recognizable text. So the first thing we're going to do is just do some basic primitives. And again, I'm not going to do the whole drawing here because it'll just be a bit boring for you guys to sit and watch me go through each line click by click. But what we're going to do is, under the primitives drop down, is click line. And we essentially want to zoom in and click on a portion of a line inside of the drawing. So for instance, I can come in and zoom in. It gets a bit easier if you zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to click on this line just here. You'll notice in the background that AutoCAD does a pretty good job, to be honest with you, of placing an AutoCAD line of 534 millimeters between the two seemingly endpoints of that line. And then I just continue. So from here, I go and click on this line, and I go and click on this line, and I go and let's leave a gap for the window, click on this line here, leave a gap for the other window, and then click on this line here. Sometimes you have to be a little bit patient. So in this case, there's so much going on here that AutoCAD doesn't really know what we want to do. So it's struggling a little bit with these lines. So I'm going to come down and select one that it will be a bit happier on. So again, look for an area that's cleaner. And if you've got things like this with insulation or hatching, you might want to clean that up and get rid of it, just so that you've got core outlines. It will really be a lot easier. And then if I just come through and just hit enter a couple of times, what you'll notice is actually AutoCAD does something really quite clever, in that it gets rid of the rasterized images wherever we have converted it into AutoCAD geometry. And then naturally from there, we can use trim, or we can use extend, or we can just drag these into place using snapping to get these lines to conform and work where they need to be. Also, you could obviously use a fillet with a radius of 0, and then select our two lines to join them together in a corner. So again, it depends on how you want it to work, and depends on how you're used to working. But we've got some really nice tools here where we can go in and basically choose to create our model. If I come in and hide with right-click, isolate, hide objects, you can see that we've then got some really nice, accurate line work around where that rasterized image was. So, whilst I'm not going to go through the entire end object isolation, I'm not going to go around the entire drawing, you can see quite quickly that AutoCAD picks up the raster and it allows you to convert it, which, should you need to, if you've got a legacy drawing and you want to convert that to an AutoCAD drawing, you can go through. Yes, you could also trace it as well. And you could also go through something like Adobe Illustrator. You could use tracing in those kind of tools to then bring a vector straight into here, which would make your life so much easier. You could just snap over it. But if you don't have that availability, to have these tools within your AEC collection for the legacy workflows are really, really nice. Now, I'm going to try and do a bit of text on here as well. So we notice that we've got this down here, says kitchen dining area. So I'm going to pick text, and I'm going to say that I want to use some multi-line text. And I'm going to put a box around that particular piece of text. Interesting. Maybe you want to do that. Okay, it's not identifying it, which is a little bit of a pain. So let's use the OCR scanner instead. Recognize text. Let's put that around here. Give it a couple of seconds. And you can see that what it's doing is it's saying, okay, is this where your text is? We've got the words kitchen and dining area. We can see that For some reason, it's gone very small on my screen. It might be my resolution, which is not particularly helpful. Let's try and make this a little bit bigger here. I'm just going to I've pasted that into Notepad. So you see it's done an okay job. It's not amazing. It's not quite picked up the K. It's not, some of the overlaps it doesn't particularly like. So again, just remember that you've got those cleaning tools and markup tools. So if I look at what it didn't pick up there, and then maybe go into my touch up tools. Let's go to touch up. Let's change the size of the brush to be a little bit smaller. Let's get rid of this line, which probably isn't helping it at all. Just take this line away like so. It's pretty clear from that perspective. Let's go onto our pen, change the color around, and I'm going to just make this K a little bit more pronounced. Great, let's finish that off. We could clean up, despeckle, invite, work on this more should we want to, but let's recognize text again. Let's put our area around there. Let it go away and think about that. And let me just paste that into Notepad again. Struggling a little bit for some reason at recognizing that text, which is a little bit frustrating because it's quite clear what it's saying. It was almost better before I took away the lines there. Let me just try and clean this up a little bit more. Just going to go into the options here. Yeah, pretty happy with that. So you can see what it's essentially struggling with is the it's not quite straight text. So it's picking up the K clearly, the T, the C. It doesn't like all the overlapping. So again, whilst it's working, you've got to look at what it is that you are creating, and you've got to try and identify or figure out, is AutoCAD going to be able to appreciate exactly what something is based on the lines and the curvature that's there. So the more time you can spend making sure that this is a nice clean image, you could argue that it's just as quick to create this from scratch and go through. But we can come in, tidy up some of the curvature off there. It's probably the font more than anything else. That's probably a little bit better. Let's take away that there, and let's go ahead and use the OCR scanner again. Pick that up, and that brings it across really nicely. Okay, so hit OK, and that'll convert that to AutoCAD text. So the font plays a big part of it. Again, if I use the OCR scanner down here, I don't think I have too many problems with the word dining. And actually, it's picked up the word area quite nicely, but you can see here it doesn't know what to do with the E and the A because they're all joined together over there. So it does an okay job, but don't assume that just because you can read it, that the system can read it. It's got to use its own, tools and intelligence. The better something is visibly inside of the image, then the more chance you're going to have of being able to convert it. Tidy up the noise, make it as clean as you can, use the tools available to you, and you can go through and work on it. Now, that said, you do have some tolerances that you can work with to make it maybe a little bit better for you, but the tools are there to convert legacy drawings. The better the quality of the image that you're bringing in, the better quality of the scan, the less noise it has, the better your results will be. But use the cleanup tools to your advantage. So yeah, I hope that's been a quick, useful oversight of being able to use some of the rasterization tools. Again, check out the AutoCAD help, because there's a load of sample files and step-by-step exercises that take you through that entire drawing that I've just shown. So while I've given you a couple of specific examples, you can go through and clean up that entire drawing and actually get something that's a full AutoCAD-based process off the end of it. So really useful inside your AEC collection, and a huge benefit should you need to convert legacy drawings. Hope that's been useful, and until next time, take care. Speak soon.